Hey everyone, today on Coffee Break, I'm going to show you how to make a shallow depth of field effect in Luminar AI. Hello and welcome to Luminar Coffee Break. I'm Angela Andrieux and today I want to show you how to create a shallow depth of field effect using Luminar AI. So Luminar AI recently got an update that introduced Portrait Bokeh AI. But the catch there is that it's only for human subjects. But what if you wanted to create a shallow depth of field effect on something like a beautiful flower? I'm going to show you how to do that today. I'm starting with an image that was submitted to us from Sandy Crete. She's one of our viewers on Luminar Coffee Break. And I'm going to show you how I took this image, really kind of made it pop, and then emphasized a beautiful shallow depth of field. Let's get started. I'm going to go to templates. And I'm going to go down to the scenery section and use my favorite here called Fast Fix. And that's just going to pop up the color, the contrast, and the exposure, give us a little bit better starting point. From there, I want to go over to Edit. And the first thing I'm going to do here is crop this. I'm going to bring it to a 4:5 aspect ratio. I think it works really well for this image. And just really emphasize, bring us in closer to this flower. I might even pull that up a little bit more there and hit return on my keyboard. Now, as I look at this flower back here is a little bit distracting. I think I'm going to go ahead and get rid of it using the clone tool. So I'm going to go down to the bottom, choose clone. And this is where it takes a little bit of work because you have to do several different selections to go ahead and get this out of the image. So I'm going to set my source in this dark area here and make my brush size a bit smaller. And as I paint, you'll see that source starts to move and I can start painting out that area. So watch where that source is. If I go down here and start painting, it's going to start bringing in some of the edges of those petals. So when we get to that point, we might need to resample. But right now we're able to bring out a lot of that, get rid of that distraction up there. I'm going to resample now holding down the Option key. On Windows, that's going to be your Alt key. So I'm going to resample right there and then just bring this down to get rid of the rest of this. I'm going to resample once more out in this area here and come down here and get the rest of that yellow off the screen. And just that has already brought the interest level more into that flower and taken that distraction out of the corner. Much better image. We'll close out of our clone tool and now we can start to get creative. I'm going to go up to, let's see here. Let's start with our mood tool and I'm going to go here to choose a let. And you can scroll through these and kind of audition these different looks and see which one you like. As I went through these, I came across Auckland and I really like the toning and everything that does to this image. Now you'll notice up here where we did our clone tool, because we did brighten up that image a lot, there's a little bit of extra detail that came through. We can tone that down and get rid of that with our dodge and burn tool. So I'm going to scroll down to dodge and burn and go to darken. I'm going to bring that strength down pretty low and then use the bracket keys on my keyboard to make that brush bigger. And I'm just going to brush in this area and darken that back up. Again, we're taking that, making sure the visual interest stays right on our image, right on that flower. There we go. Make that brush size a little bit smaller and brush that in. And now those distractions are gone. I also think that the flowers down here are a little bit bright. I'm going to darken those down too. Make that brush size really big. I might bring that strength down even a little bit more. And then we can just gently brush in a little bit of darkening down here, which really draws us into the center of the flower. So I'm going to darken that down just a little bit more. And now we can start working with that shallow depth of field effect. So I'm going to close out of dodge and burn and go up to local masking, choose add and basic. And we're going to use negative structure to make this effect happen. So I'm going to take my paint mask menu here and go down to gradient. And I'm going to draw in a gradient here from this upper corner right down through about there. So everything that's in red is going to get the effect. Everything outside of it will not be touched. So I'm going to bring that down probably right about there and then pull our structure AI down to the left. And that's going to soften all those details and gives us that shallow depth of field effect that looks like that focus is just falling off. We're going to do that again now with the bottom of the image. So I'm going to go up to add basic and we're going to add another instance of our basic local mask. using that structure, that negative structure again. So we'll go here to paint mask, choose gradient, and this time we're going to draw up from the bottom. And I'm going to draw that up probably right through there, maybe right about there. And I'm trying to keep roughly the same plane of focus here, which is why I'm doing this at an angle. If you need to adjust the angle, you can always come to that middle line just off the center. You'll get the double-headed arrow, and you can adjust that rotation. So there we go. Now I'm going to take that structure and pull that all the way down to the left, and you'll see that's going to dramatically soften the detail down here, and again, really draws us into the center of the image. Now, I do think that this area right here should be a little bit softer. Because of the depth of field and the plane of focus, we have our front to back, but we also have a little bit of up and down here, and this is below. And so I want to soften what's going on down here too. So I'm going to add to this mask by switching to my paint mask. That gives me my brush, and now I can just brush in a little bit more of that effect down in that area to soften that up. There we go. And if you feel like you got a little bit too far, you can always grab your erase tool, lower that opacity, and then come in here and just gently blend back in a little bit of that detail. As a final touch here, what I'm going to do is go back to my tools, and let's take a look here. I still feel like those yellows are a little bit strong. So let's go up to our color tool and down into HSL. We can choose our saturation channel here and then just back off the saturation of those yellows and maybe a little bit of those oranges. Maybe pull that yellow back up a little bit. We don't want it to look muddy. That looks good. And finally, we can go down to our vignette and add a nice big soft vignette to finally draw us right into the middle of this image, right into the middle of the flower. So I'm going to take the amount slider, pull that all the way down to -100, make that size perhaps a little bit smaller, go into our advanced settings and adjust the roundness here and see which way we want to pull that. I think over there to the right looks good. Bring that feather up nice and high. That gives you a really smooth transition. And maybe even pop in a little bit of inner light. Now let's place this so it's right over the center of our flower. I think right about there looks perfect. And from there we can back off the amount so we get a nice natural look. So there we have it. That's how I created a shallow depth of field effect using Luminar AI without having to use the Portrait Bokeh AI, because I know that's just for use on humans, but sometimes you have other subjects that you really want to emphasize by selecting your focus point. So this is the way I would do that. Let me go ahead and show you quickly here the before and the after, and you can see it's a very dramatic change, and it's a really, really lovely image. I want to say thanks Sandy for allowing me to work with her photograph today. It's been fun, and I hope you guys enjoyed this lesson. If you guys enjoyed it, make sure you give us a thumbs up here on YouTube, and leave me any comments or questions you have below. I'll do my best to get those answered for you. With that, I want to wish you a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Bye, everyone.